Well, President Obama's electric car battery plan seems to be running out of juice. We got Mike Ramsey of the Wall Street Journal in Detroit to tell us all about this. Mike, thank you very much for joining us there. Tell us about this. This was a plan to have electric car battery plants all over the U.S., build lots of batteries. What went wrong?
Well, so far, the interesting thing is that if the goal is to build battery capacity in the United States where there was none before, then they've been very successful in doing that. They've built 9 battery plants around the country, most of them in Michigan, with the capability of producing tens of thousands of these automotive-grade lithium-ion batteries. And that was the stated goal of the administration. Unfortunately, what's happened is that was connected to a goal of getting 1 million plug-ins on the road by 2015. And either the car makers have been late to come out with the electric cars, or the cars that are out have been, aren't selling that much. So what you have is a bunch of factories that are empty, have very few, a third as many jobs as promised, and some of them have already had a lot of financial problems. There's been one bankruptcy, and another company, A123, has been struggling trying to raise cash to make it. So no one seems to disagree that they may need these batteries, and certainly this capacity might be needed in the United States at some point. But right now you have a bunch of plants that have been built and aren't really producing very much.
And we were just looking at pictures there of the Chevy Volt, which is one of the electric cars, which isn't selling very well from General Motors there. But there's another issue here, is that $1 billion of taxpayer money, your money and my money, was spent on this, right?
Yeah, okay, so the tax dollars have been spent, and they were matching, this is matching grant funding, essentially. If you spend, if the company spends $1, they get $1 from the government. And the key to this is that when these grants were awarded, they said, they were awarded in 2009, most of them, they said, you have to finish this plant and be producing a certain amount of, at a certain capacity in 3 years. And here are these goals that you have to hit each way along the way. Well, you can see that sometimes building a plant like that is not necessarily connected to, do you have customers? There isn't anything that I think required them to actually have customers lined up for this. So a lot of these plants have been built, and they're starting to staff up. They have this capacity, but there just isn't demand right now. So, it's sort of a question about, is this the right policy to just say we want to build capacity and we want to build an industry here, knowing that you might end up causing some of these people to go out of business.
Now, the adage that I always remember is build it and they will come. Is this an example where they didn't? They built it and they didn't come.
Exactly. I think that's the idea is, I can't find anyone I've talked to who doesn't believe that this capacity is needed, that it's important for the United States to have it, because it was all in Korea and Japan and China beforehand. But the fact is, if you build a bunch of battery plants, that doesn't mean that you're going to have a bunch of electric cars on the road demanding that there. It's like building engine plants with no car plant. So you have so you have a situation now where you have all this money, more than $1 billion, been invested in these plants. And they might, for the next couple of years, sit, hardly used at all, and be a, big drain on the company, or even force some bankruptcies and restructurings, which I just don't know if it's a good use of the tax dollars. I think people might disagree and they say that, the silver lining to this is the U.S. has now these battery plants that they didn't have before, and they might not have been built in the United States. They could have been built in Asia or somewhere else.